treat for off-road racing fans. Here's On the Limit.
You'd better buckle up, my friend, because it's time for your weekly dose of thundering V8 supercars, all-action Australian rallying, the spectacular Bankwin Off-Road Championship, plus all the action from the nail-biting DTM series. On the Limit is proudly presented by O'Hagan's. Oh, to be sure, you can almost taste the action.
86 teams descended on the Gaborone Dam in Botswana, the new base for the annual Toyota 1000 Desert Race, round 3 of the Bankwin Off-Road Championship. The only marathon event on the national calendar has been sponsored by Toyota since 1981 and annually provides a multi-million rand boost for the Botswana economy. As per normal, proceedings got underway with documentation and scrutineering before crews headed off on the 46-kilometre prologue, which would determine starting positions for the main event. The Toyota 1000 Desert Race, round 3 of Bankwin Off-Road Championship, proudly brought to you by Ford, Nissan, Toyota and Bankwin. If it moves, we'll finance it. After 2 rounds of the Bankwin Off-Road Championship, John Weir-Smith and Tony George share the Special Vehicle Championship lead with Greg Dowse and Trevor Ormerod. Weir-Smith and George picked up a second overall on the Barbaspan 500 and won the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 in the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Gymco.
Yeah, this is one of the events of the year, which is actually 2 races in one, and we're very fortunate to have finished both of the previous events. So we're looking quite good in the championship at the moment. We're tying in the Special Vehicle Championship with Greg Dowse at the moment. We got 1 race that we have to drop through the year, so we're okay right now.
Dowse and Ormerod have 2 class wins and 2 podium finishes to their credit.
I think it's more due to consistency. We've won our class. We haven't won an overall race yet, but it's 2 out of 2 that we finished, and in a marathon series like this it's important to finish, so that's what we've done.
Class D and E vehicles dominate the top 5 placings in the production vehicle category, with Pete Haasbroek and Christo Bosch reigning supreme after 2 podium finishes. Haasbroek and Bosch have dominated Class D in their Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser and finished 3rd overall in their first 2 outings of the season.
Nee, verseker, ek sal met harder ry. Ek meen, ek wil graag vandag met Round House wil ek probeer om die eerste 10 weg te spring. Ek het nog die vorige 2 reise elke slag onder in die 20ste weggespring en ek meen dit is bemoeilik bietjie die saak, maar as ek onder die eerste 10 kan wegspring, glo ek kan ek by die halfpad weer goed lê om die volgende dag terug te kom.
Scrutineering is an important facet of off-road racing and ensures that vehicles fully comply with Motorsport South Africa's safety and technical regulations. Competitors had to undergo an unusual test for the Toyota 1000.
Directed over the top of the bridge tomorrow. Okay. I'll take a note of your number. When you kick off tomorrow, they will inform you. Take you over the top of the bridge.
We have a section on the track which is an underpass to a roadway. It's quite narrow, so we just want to be sure that the vehicles that can fit through there, if they're not going to be able to get through, then we're going to have to divert those particular vehicles. That's what we're doing. We're just gauging the size of the vehicles, the height and the width.
The 46-kilometre prologue saw Nissan Sugarbelt 400 winners Camille de Villiers and Francois Jordan in fine form. The reigning production vehicle champions extracted the maximum from their Nissan hardbody to post the fastest time, 36 seconds ahead of the second-placed crew. Father and son duo Bodo and Gary Berthold have been at the forefront of the development of the locally designed and built BAT and have a reputation for out-qualifying the rest of the special vehicle field, and did just that on the Toyota 1000. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek haven't won a race in 8 outings and were hoping for a change in fortunes on this event. They posted the 3rd fastest time, 49 seconds slower than their Nissan teammates. Brandon Harkis, one of the partners in the BAT project, and co-driver Reghard Roots qualified 4th fastest in the Nissan V6-powered BAT, while the two-wheel drive O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Jeep raised a few eyebrows when Paolo Piazza Musso and Scott Abraham posted the 5th fastest time in the 5.9-litre V8-powered Monster. Botswana businessman Atang Makgekgenene and Alex Sally didn't let their many fans down with their 6th place finish in the prologue. Much was expected from sweet-sounding Wix V6-powered Jimco. Cliff Weichelt and Johann Smallberger qualified 7th in last year's Toyota 1000 winning Ford Ranger and were followed by the surprise package of the prologue. Teammates Jean-Pierre Hubert and Errol Hodgson, who qualified their Class E Kia Sportage in 8th place after an incident-free run. Special Vehicle Championship co-leader Greg Dowse and Andrew van Zyl were the leading Class S entry in 9th place, while Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo in the Nissan Hardbody were the only Class D entry to make it into the top 10. There was drama for some of the more fancied crews. Arpi Reneke and Robin Houghton's new Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser ended up in a donga. This incident cost them a lot of time and would see them start the following day in 75th place. Success at last. Only egos were damaged in this incident.
We went sort of wrong slot, but there were tracks through the donga there, and we thought we could make it, but with this new gearbox, we got a long first gear, and we sort of stalled the car into the ditch, and then we were seesaw over a wall there, and that took us about 35 minutes to get out there.
Going.
Drama too for Class D hopefuls Duncan Foss and Mike Griffiths.
The prop shop carrier bearing is pulled loose and it's on one side. So to go on would just damage the vehicle, and we'd rather pull out now and get it ready for tomorrow.
The Bankfin Off-Road Championship presented by Ford, Nissan, Toyota and Bankfin. If it moves, we'll finance it.
Whatever you need, a car, bucky, 4x4, bike, boat, caravan, truck, tractor, trailer. Let our Bankfin experts help you finance the way you choose to get around. Bankfin Finance is available at over 2,200 Bankfin-approved motor dealers, or at any Bankfin or ABSA branch, or by simply visiting www.bankfin.co.za. Bankfin. If it moves, we'll finance it.
The Bankfin Off-Road Championship presented by Ford, Nissan, Toyota and Bankfin. If it moves, we'll finance it. The 462-kilometer route for the Toyota 1000 featured 80% new terrain, which promised to be more than a test for man and machine. Early morning before the start of Racing Section 2. Production vehicles and 4 special vehicles in the top 10, with crews like Reneke and Houghton and Woolridge and Skolthammer having to fight their way to the front.
We were lucky, we didn't get lost yesterday. The car's got a nice short wheelbase, and the power deliveries onto the ground is quite good. So yeah, we're very happy that we're in this position.
I think in this type of terrain, I think the Jeep handles wonderfully. You know, it's quite thick sand, so I think with the big wheels and that, we get good performance out of it. So it suits us down to the T.
Well, I must take my hat off to the guys, the developers of the BAT cars. They've done a fantastic job. We've managed to put ourselves second on the grid. We're the first special, giving the American guys a run for their money. So I must say the handling was fantastic. The setup was good. rough route, which is a test for these cars. So there's another one in 4th position, which is fantastic. So BAT Racing should be out there today.
It was a very challenging time trial. I don't know if the rest of the route's going to be like that. I think it's going to be a bit more open. But whatever comes, I mean, we suited to it, and I think the car will perform well.
The moment of truth for the 86 starters arrived at 8 o'clock, with De Villiers and Jordan first away in the Nissan hardbody.
300, 200, up for die boys, draai je recht. Follow route, links in. Een beetje beter as gister.
The 3-car BAT team had a point to prove after a string of disappointing failures earlier in the season, and Grobler and Leek were looking for their first win of the season. Harkus and Roots have a reputation for charging hard from the start, and much was expected from the rebuilt Jeep of Piazza Musso and Abraham. Magagene won the Barberspan 500 and dearly wanted to win on home turf. De Villiers and Jordan took command of the race from the start, and having no dust with which to contend was an added advantage for the Nissan pair.
100 hierdie duik weg, skerp links. Skerp links hier.
The Bertholds held onto the lead in the special vehicle category. Support for off-road racing in Botswana was exceptional. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek kept the pressure on their Nissan teammates. Harkus and Roots in the second BAT maintained a steady pace. Even the scheduled rail service came to a halt so that passengers could get a look at the action. The Jeep certainly didn't disappoint the onlookers with this overshoot. Magagene seemed content to slot in behind the Jeep at this point in the race. Weigelt and Smalberger were holding station in 7th place, and behind them teammates Dubert and Hodgson in the M1 4x4 Kia had to contend with choking dust, resulting in an overshoot. Further down the field, the dust became a huge problem, causing many crews like Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo to wrong slot. Fans waited at the subway, where some vehicles that were too wide had to cross over the road rather than pass under it, like De Villiers and Jordan.
Ja, uit daar zo en dan skerp links.
Gary and Bodo Berthold's lead in the special vehicle category would be short-lived. A puncture soon after this cost them 25 places. Due to the dusty conditions, Grobler and Leek had dropped to 1 minute and 9 seconds behind race leaders De Villiers and Jordan, and had Harkus and Roots right on their tail. The O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Jeep and the Magagene Jimco would be the first of the wider vehicles to cross the main road. Vehicles using the subway had the advantage of a shorter route. Jean-Pierre Hubert and Errol Hodgson led Class E by over 3 minutes from nearest challengers Hein Moorman and Cecil Fincham in the aging Toyota Hilux. Dowse and Van Zyl led Class S in the Nashua Mobile Race Co., and behind them it resembled the charge of the Light Brigade as vehicle after vehicle under the road. Bankfin Off-Road Championship presented by Ford, Nissan, Toyota and Bankfin. If it moves, we'll finance it. Presented by Ford, Nissan, Toyota and Bankfin. If it moves, we'll finance it. Geniel de Villiers and Francois Jordan are a formidable combination, but they too make mistakes. Not too much time was lost by the brief encounter with the thorn tree. The Berthold's demise saw Grobler and Leek move up to second place on the road. Brandon Harkes and Richard Roots kept the bat flag flying high and were the new leaders in the special vehicle category. Machegenene and Sally eventually got past Piazza Musso and Abraham when the Jeep picked up a puncture. Weichelt and Smallberger also gained a place, as did Bevan Berthold and Colin Howell in the third bat entry. The super team entered Jeep was now 7th and led Class F by the proverbial mile. Dowse and Van Sale were 4th in the special vehicle category and Class S leaders, but couldn't afford to relax their pace because they had Mohammed Noor and Mohammed Moltzen also in a Class S race car keeping up the pressure. Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo were having a good run in the Nissan hardbody and had matters in Class D firmly under control. Henry Kerstein and Rainier Uester in the Sekorock Sandmaster were comfortable leaders in Class B, while Hein Moorman and Cecil Fincham led Class E ahead of the more fancied factory Ford, Nissan and Toyota entries. Neil Woolridge and Kenny Skolthammer started 45th and had moved up to 20th overall after 90 minutes of racing. Drama for Clint Gibson as Class E contenders Kasi Kutsia and Oki Furi flashed by.
Rock's got the better of me.
Nick Harper and Andrew Chalupsky gained a place in the Rocks Raceco, as did Botswana businessman Carlos de Abro and Marius and Tracy van Vuren. But no place gained for Greg Harvey and Boy Stone in the Jimco. The Nissan pit at the designated service point midway through Racing Section 2 was a hive of activity as leaders Grobler and Leek made a brief stop. But what happened to de Villiers and Jordan?
It was a pity. I mean, we were going quite well up until that stage, and then something in the engine let go. So it's a real pity. It's the second year in a row for me. So I still don't know what the rest of the desert looks like.
Some confusion as Machegenene and Harkes headed off in the wrong direction.
How's it going, Johan?
Very well, man. We're racing like a king. Very enjoying it. No problem so far. No flat wheels, nothing. Route's very well marked. We can follow it quickly.
Weichelt and Smallberger were now 2nd overall, but were closely followed by Woolridge and Skolthammer in the Ford, who did not stop for service. The O'Hagan's Kopenong Hotel Jeep was 4th overall and the Class F leader at the midway point, but would later retire with a ruptured fuel tank. Reineke and Houghton flashed by, dropping the Jeep down a place. Cliff Barker and Vic Comfer had moved steadily up the ranks in the Land Rover Financial Services entry, which sported some panel damage. Grobler and Leek didn't let up the pace on the second loop, and the veteran driver's rally skills came to the fore on this section of the route as he reveled in the speed and handling of the Nissan hardbody, much to the delight of the crowd. And Skolthammer were now 2nd overall in the Ford Racing Ranger after getting by the N1 4x4 Ford, in which they won last year's Toyota 1000. Weichelt and Smallberger were now 3rd overall. Brandon Harkes and Richard Roots were still in command in the special vehicle category, their bat performing faultlessly. In In a giant-killing performance, Reyneke and Houghton had carved their way through the field and made up 70 places in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. Class B leaders Dawson van Sale were 6th overall and 2nd in the special vehicle category in the Nashua Mobile Race Co. Nissan hardbody pair Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo hadn't been challenged for the Class D lead all day, but behind them there was a great battle for 2nd place between Henry and Maurice Zermatten in the PlayStation Pajero, the Nissan of Foss and Griffiths in the Toyotas of Piet Hasbroek and Schumi van Vieren. Queenstown-based Greg Harvey and Boy Stone had moved up to 2nd in Class A in the Lexus B8-powered Castrol Queen Motor Spares Gymco after starting 46th. Duncan Foss and Mike Griffiths were 3rd in Class D and 10th overall in the Nissan hardbody after starting 81st, a spectacular performance from the former touring car driver. The overnight stop was a welcome sight for the crews that survived Racing Section 2. Now it was up to the service crews to get the vehicles ready for the next day.
It took us about 70 kilos to get into the front. We started off 3rd. Initially the race was really rough and rocky, but after about 50 kilos we got like into the Kalahari, the desert, and it was very well. We didn't have any flat wheels, no problems with the car, and the route was well marked, and we about 10 minutes before the second guy, so we're very happy.
Routine maintenance was also being carried out in the Ford pit.
It's been a dream day, really. We started 45th this morning, and I must say I never thought we'd end up here 2nd today. And I must just say, all the competitors that we passed, they were fantastic. Everyone moved over for us. There were 1 or 2 that we battled for a while, but they were really good in moving over, which was great to see.
There were problems for the category-leading BAT Racing entry.
We had a clear run this morning. Came in just behind the tongue, the refuel. We had a really quick refuel stop, and then after that, I didn't see anybody for 175 k's until looks like we've broken a valve in the engine, so we had to limp home, and we've come in 4th and 1st in class. So yeah, we're happy.
The new Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser had performed faultlessly all day, and Reyneke's charge through the field was nothing short of spectacular.
It seems it's the only way for me to win a race to start from the back. We started 77 this morning, and we caught up, and now we're lying 5th overall.
Production vehicles, especially the Class T entries, dominated proceedings, with only 3 special vehicles making it into the top 10. The Toyota 1000 Desert Race, round 3 of Bankfin Off-Road Championship, proudly brought to you by Ford, Nissan, Toyota, and Bankfin. If it moves, we'll finance it.
You'd better stay buckled up, my friend. Don't.
1:30 for the Grand Prix de France. It's off-road racing, I should say now, Bankfin's Off-Road Racing Championship that was held in Botswana last month. The Toyota 1000 Desert Race. It's on the limit.
You'd better buckle up, my friend, because it's time for your weekly dose of thunder in V8 Supercars. All-action Australian rallying, the spectacular Bankfin Off-Road Championship, plus all the action from the nail-biting DTM series. On the Limit is proudly presented by O'Hagan's. Oh, to be sure, you can almost taste the action.
Coming up in On the Limit, Part 2 of the Toyota 1000 Desert Race held recently in Botswana. The Toyota 1000 Desert Race, round 3 of the Bankfin Off-Road Championship, proudly brought to you by Ford, Nissan, Toyota, and Bankfin. If it moves, we'll finance it. Reigning production vehicle champions Geniel de Villiers and Francois Jordan in the Class T Nissan hardbody set the pace when they qualified on pole after the 46-kilometer prologue. Father and son duo Bodo and Gary Berthold in the M&E Class Bat qualified fastest among the special vehicles. RP Reineke and Robin Houghton would rather forget the prologue. They managed to bury their brand new Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser in a donga and spent 40 minutes digging it out. They would start 75th on Racing Section 2. Special Vehicle Championship co-leaders John Weir-Smith and Tony George got lost in the prologue and would start 39th on Racing Section 2. Ford pair Neil Woolridge and Kenny Skolthammer also got hopelessly lost in the prologue and would start 45th, while former Bankfin touring car driver Duncan Foss and Mike Griffiths picked up problems on the Class D Nissan hardbody and would be forced to start 81st. The top 10 starting order for Racing Section 2 of the Toyota 1000 Desert Race, with the production vehicles dominating. Day 2 got off to a sunny start, with crews attending to last-minute preparations before their 462-kilometer haul to the overnight stop.
I do like coming from behind. I never like coming from this far behind. But, you know, look, it's 1,000 kilometers. It's a long, hard race. I've just seen the terrain yesterday. I think there's going to be a lot of cars falling out, so it's going to be an interesting race, yeah.
We're back where we were at Barbaspan again, but, you know, Barbaspan, we fought from the back, came up to the front, so we've got 2 days, 1,000 kilometers, a lot can happen still.
The moment of truth for the 86 starters arrived at 8 o'clock, and first off the line were de Villiers and Jordan in the Nissan hardbody. They had the advantage of a dust-free route, which gave them a decided edge over the competition. Conditions were dry and dusty, with no rain predicted for the weekend.
Follow route, links in. Een beetje beter as gister.
37 seconds later, the Bertholds blasted off the line in the locally designed and built Nissan V6-powered Bat. They were closely followed by the second-class T Nissan hardbody of Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek. Brandon Harkes and Regardt Roots were next away in the second of 3 Bats entered in the event. And they were closely followed by Paolo Piazza Musso and Scott Abraham in the Class F two-wheel drive Jeep, who would have to contend with lots of pressure from Atang Machagenene and Alex Sally. The Bertholds picked up a puncture soon after the start, and they would have to play catch-up for the rest of the day. Grobler and Leek took over the lead when engine problems sidelined teammates de Villiers and Jordan.
Oh. Very best. You can go through there.
Woolridge and Skolthammer set a blistering pace in the Class T Ford Ranger and had moved up 43 places by the midway point. The former production vehicle champion has a reputation of coming up from behind to win. Oops. Cliff Weichelt and Johan Smelberger had a steady run in the N1 4x4 Ford Ranger, which won last year's Toyota 1000 with Woolridge at the wheel. The American-built truck was at home in the bumpy terrain. Harkes and Roots were on a charge in the Bat and had built up a healthy lead in the special vehicle category. Reineke and Houghton were having a great run in the new Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, which performed faultlessly. The race cam footage is a clear indication of what they had to endure in their charge through the field. They made quick work of the Nissan of Franco Pieterse and Roelof van Heerden. Next to fall victim were Teuns Visser and Alex van Rooyen in the Mitsubishi Colt. The stricken Land Rover of Cliff Barker and Vic Camphor presented no problem. James Kennelly and Robert Mills politely moved over for the rapidly approaching Land Cruiser. It took a little longer for Reineke to get by the Nissan hardbody of Yuri and Andre Duplessis. Arthur van Zwiel and Piero Antiga needed some time to find a suitable spot to pull off and let Reineke pass. Roy and Milton Slabber delayed the Toyota for a while. Reyneke now had a Class B challenger in his sights, and not having to endure Frank de Greef's dust was an added bonus. Greg Dowse and VZ van Zyl were second overall in the special vehicle category and Class S leaders at the end of Racing Section 2, their Nashua Mobile Race Co performing faultlessly. The Class D battle between Isuzu, Jeep, Land Rover, Mitsubishi, Nissan and Toyota raged on, and at the end of the day, Nissan pair Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo had a 15-minute lead over the Zermatten brothers in the PlayStation Pajero. The overnight Class B lead belonged to Henry Kerstein and Rainier Duister in the Sekarock Sandmaster. Class E has become a battleground for Ford, Kia, Nissan and Toyota. And after 462 kilometers, Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham in the Ford Ranger had the edge over the competition. After the Class F Jeep retired with a ruptured fuel tank, the husband and wife combo of Frank and Daleen de Greef took control of the class in their Toyota Hilux. The end of a long, dusty day and an opportunity for tired crews to relax around their campfires at the overnight stop. However, for some crews, there would be little time for rest as they attended to their vehicles in preparation for the following day's long haul back to Gaborone. The leaderboard, Grobler and Leek in the lead, but being chased by Woolridge and Skolthammer, who had started 45th. Reineke's charge from 75th to 5th was phenomenal. The Bankfin Off-Road Championship, presented by Ford, Nissan, Toyota and Bankfin. Championship, presented by Ford, Nissan, Toyota and Bankfin. A chilly early morning start to the final day of the Toyota 1000 Desert Race. Time for some coffee, a quick wash and some last-minute preparations. The remaining 54 crews would head back along the same 462-kilometer route with conditions expected to be rougher and as dusty as the previous day. Off-road racing is a predominantly family affair, and there are many husband and wife combinations in the Bankfin Off-Road Championship, which no doubt makes for some interesting relationship scenarios in and out of the cockpit. Marius and Tracy van Vieren are strong contenders in Class D and can always be counted upon for a good result in their Land Rover.
It's great fun, hard work, and we keep each other under control.
Francis Boersma joined husband Marius in the independent 4x4 Land Rover for the first time on the Toyota 1000.
I think with your wife next to you in the car seat, it's actually, she knows you better and she knows when you go over your limit, you know, so I think it's actually an advantage to have her in the car. When you've got a guy, you know, he likes to be impressed, so when you go wild, he thinks it's lacquer, you know. I think it's good to have your wife there. I think your car will last longer anyhow.
Unfortunately, we don't have a handbrake, so I can't stop him.
Hang in for the ride, you know.
We've actually never had a fight in the car. In the 3 years we've been in the car, we've never had a fight in the car. I have a dual job, you know. Being a member of the media and a navigator gives me privileges. I don't have to hassle with everything at the car, so I can walk around and do my PR job while, you know, he sorts out the car. When the time comes and it's necessary, I have no problem with getting my hands dirty. I can tell you some stories about that in the beginning when we started racing, breaking side shafts and stuff.
And then what happened?
I painted my nails black at that stage of the fight, so you couldn't see the grease underneath them.
I think we really understand each other, and that's the main thing within a rally car. And I have to, whatever she tells me, I should sort of stick to that, you know.
Dis baie lekker en dis lekker, ons kan iets saam doen. Dis is goed vir ons huwelik, ons doen iets saam.
Frank and Daleen de Greef have raced together for 14 years, with Daleen also helping with the preparation of their Toyota.
Eintlik is Frank redelik kalm. Ek moet sê. So.
Hou jy vir hom kalm of is hy maar net so vanaand?
Nee, ek dink ek hou hom so 'n bietjie kalm. Dink so. Ek moet myself 'n bietjie die eer gee daarvoor.
Derek and Tina de Bruin have shared the cockpit of their Nissan for 8 years.
It's wonderful. At least we managed to do things together. Not that we agree on everything, but yeah, it's great.
You have to do all the hard work, everything. Tina's not a
a tyre changer. She won't change tyres. You can forget it. I'll have to do it all myself, whether I like it or not.
Lots gets said. I don't think it's the time or the place to repeat what gets said in the car, but yeah, I think the ladies always come out on top.
I don't know, I like her, I think, and if she puts in the money, she's the one with the dosh. I got no money, so she pays, I ride her. If she don't pay, I can't go nowhere. So. And if I don't take her, I don't get any money, so that's the only reason why she's there. Not for any other reason, really. Other than also, I do love her, don't forget that.
The start of the final day of the Toyota 1000 Desert Race. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek were hoping for a change of fortunes after an 8-event winless streak in the Nissan Hardbody. Off-road racing enjoys significant fan support in Botswana, and the crowds lined the start line. Ford pair Neil Woolridge and Kenny Skolthammer had a 12-minute deficit to make up if they wanted a repeat of their 2001 win. The French-built Ford Ranger has proved to be a formidable contender in the Bankfin Off-Road Championship. Third off the line were Cliff Weichelt and Johan Smallberger in the N1 4x4 Ford Ranger. They were over 15 minutes behind the leaders and 3.5 minutes behind the Woolridge Ford Ranger. R.P. Reyneke and Robin Houghton were in a confident mood and believed the new Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser had the measure of the rest of the competition in Class T. They would have to make up over 18 minutes if they had any hope of victory. Dowse and Van Zyl inherited the special vehicle lead when Harkes and Roots failed to make their allotted start time. Class D leaders Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo would not be able to relax their pace because they had a gaggle of Land Rovers, Nissans, Mitsubishis, Toyotas, and a lone Isuzu and a lone Jeep hell-bent on snatching their lead away from them. Henri and Maurice Zermatten had a clean run up to the overnight stop, making up 9 places to start the morning in 8th place. Greg Harvey and Boy Stone now led Class A in the Queen Motorspares Gymco by 6 minutes from Roy and Milton Slabber. Production Vehicle Championship leaders Piet Haasbroek and Christo Bosch were at home in the conditions and likely contenders for the Class D win in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. Shimmy van Vieren and new co-driver Henny Tersteege were 4th in Class D in their Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, only seconds behind rivals Haasbroek and Bosch. Up at the front, Grobler and Leek were on a charge in the Nissan Hardbody, but not relishing their role of pathfinders. Cattle were an ever-present danger. Woolridge and Skolthammer were unable to close the gap on the leading Nissan, while Reyneke and Houghton were slowly but surely making up time on the second-placed Ford Ranger. Greg Dowse and VZ van Zyl maintained a steady pace and the special vehicle lead, but had Harvey and Stone in the Lexus V8-powered Gymco steadily closing the gap on them. The battle for Class D honours continued unabated, with Hein Grobler and Christo Bosch still leading, but being challenged by Nissan teammates Duncan Foss and Mike Griffiths. Veteran Richard Carolyn and Jeff Minnett were 2nd in Class S and 3rd overall in the special vehicle category, but being chased hard by John Lambert and Stephen Parker in another Class S entry. Shumi van Vieren had got by Piet Haasbroek, who was now 4th in Class D. The Bertoldt started the day in 35th place and had moved up to 12th, with Terence Marsh and Trevor Aheyer 13th in the Nashua Mobile Gymco. Grobler and Leek arrived at the designated service point in the lead, with the Nissan Hardbody none the worse for wear after some hard racing.
Okay, let's just try the override for the fans, Michael.
It sounds like
got a short stretch home now.
Well, it's not so short. It's a long way if you think about where the flag is. So we're going to take it.
Woolridge and Skolthammer were the next to arrive in the Ford Ranger, stopping only briefly to chat to their service crew before they headed off in pursuit of the leading Nissan. Reyneke and Houghton still held down third place and spent minimal time in the pits, while the pit crew completed a quick safety check and refueled the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. The pressure was on. Dowse and Van Zyl were fourth overall and the leading special vehicle.
Yeah, the route's like a double-lane highway, very well marked, and no problems at all. We're going our guns. We'll do that on the way. Okay. How do we get out of here?
There were problems in the Harvey camp.
Rack packed up here about 20 k's out. And it's difficult to drive this car with no power steering. So we had to tap off a bit. But other than that, it's been going great. Really great. Wonderful though.
Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo arrived with Foss and Griffiths on their back bumper. Carolyn and Minute were next up, followed by Lambert and Parker. Both drivers are former winners of the Toyota 1000 Desert Race and were once again locked in battle for Class S and overall honours. Interestingly, the first three special vehicles were all of the older beam axle design. There was frantic activity in Piet Haasbroek's pit. He and Schumi van Vuuren had come into the service point together, and the race was now on to see who would be first back onto the route. Haasbroek won this part of the race, and van Vuuren had to be content to follow in his dust. The Bertolds were second in Class A, with Terence Marsh and Trevor Ahea third. The Bankfin Off-Road Championship, presented by Ford, Nissan, Toyota and Bankfin.
Let's help you finance the way you choose to get around. Bankfin Finance is available at over 2,200 Bankfin-approved motor dealers, or at any Bankfin or ABSA branch, or by simply visiting www.bankfin.co.za. Bankfin. If it moves, we'll finance it.
Presented by Ford, Nissan, Toyota and Bankfin. There was no stopping race leaders Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek in the Nissan hardbody. The veteran driver was as stylish and controlled as ever. Woolridge and Skoldhammer had a firm grip on second place, but could make no impression on the leading Nissan. Third was still held down by Reyneke and Houghton, whose Toyota now sported some panel damage. With Special Vehicle Championship co-leaders Ware Smith and George out of the race, all Dowse had to do was finish and hopefully win to take a commanding lead in the championship. Hein Grobler retired with electrical problems and handed the Class D lead to Nissan teammates Foss and Griffiths. Schumi van Vuuren had overtaken Haasbroek and was now second in Class D, but couldn't relax his pace at all because, you guessed it, Haasbroek was right on his tail. The Castrol Toyota teammates were locked in a ding-dong battle for a class win and maximum points. The M&E Class Bat of the Bertolds was the first Class A entry on the road, but on corrected time, Harvey and Stone were still the class leaders. John Moore is the proud owner of Franz Czepek's championship-winning Chenauth and was delighted to be the third-placed Class A entry on corrected time. The dying stages of the Toyota 1000 Desert Race, and there was no stopping Grobler and Leek's relentless charge. Woolridge and Skoldhammer had to be content with second place overall and in Class T. Reyneke and Houghton were unable to close the gap on the leading Nissan and the Ford and settled into third place. The Class E battle raged on, with Hichu and Jaap de Bruin the new leaders in the ex-Birkin Toyota Hilux. The father and son team have been strong contenders for class honours this season. Reigning Class E champions Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham struggled on in the Ford Ranger, which had lost front-wheel drive earlier in the race. Hannes Steyn and Ferdi Seegers debuted their new Toyota Hilux double cab earlier in the season and were having a steady run in third place, while Colin Matthews in the Industrial Hardware Off-Tracks was the leading Class B entry. Marcus Taylor and Mark Deschalaine in the Truck Time Aceco would inherit the Class B lead when Matthews ran out of fuel, but they were under pressure from reigning Class B champion Giel Nel, whose Luke Africa truggy hadn't missed a beat throughout the event. The Class F win went to Frank and Darlene de Greef in the locally designed and built Toyota Hilux. The finish of the Toyota 1000 Desert Race, a large crowd waited in eager anticipation for Grobler and Leek.
At last.
At last.
Taken long enough.
Yeah.
Honest, that's been a long time coming.
Definitely, definitely. But everything came together. Car was fantastic, crew was fantastic, navigating was fantastic. I don't know about the driver, but we here first, and I'm happy.
A solid second overall for Woolridge and Skolthammer in the Ford Ranger. They had made up 43 places over 2 days of tough racing. Reineke and Houghton limped into the finish. An encounter with a large rock almost cost them a well-earned third overall in the new Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. They decided not to change the flat wheel and crawled along over the final 2 kilometers of the route. Second career win for Greg Dowse in the Nashua Mobile Race Co. He and VZ van Zyl had maintained a steady pace throughout the race, and their victory was well deserved.
It's a long race. All thanks go to Nashua Mobile's team. We had an unbelievable team. With such a long event like this, you need to have all the support you can get, and we had that today. It was fantastic.
A maiden Class D win for Duncan Foss and Mike Griffiths in the slightly battered Nissan Hardbody.
First to fifth overall, comment about that.
The first 30-40 Ks was crazy this morning, and then it seemed to settle down, and then the last loop we could more or less control it a little bit back down. No, the car was unbelievable. It was really good.
The production vehicle category results and overall and Class D and T victories for Nissan, with the Class E win going to Ford and the Class F victory to Toyota. Class S vehicles dominated the special vehicle category, with the Class A win going to Harvey and Stone and the Class B win to Taylor and Deschalaine. The Toyota 1000 Desert Race, round 3 of the Bankfin Off-Road Championship, was proudly brought to you by Ford.